about tonight?
Oh, I feel good about tonight. Tonight was substance over fluff, I thought. We talked about cutting back 1% so of everybody's. My budget we cut. It's less than the day I started. We had we just turned back $1.49 million to the general fund. We've asked agencies to take a 1 cent cut here, 1% cut. Not education or the judiciary or child protective services, not those that are protected, but to have those so that we can give raises to mental health workers, and our prison guards are woefully undercompensated. So I thought that part was good. I thought our education part, where people understand that we want to do pre-K, that's just planting a seed, and it may not be as fun to talk about, but that's critical to teachers, I think, to have those kids show up with a basic understanding. I thought that was really important. Giving our teachers salaries, not at the pay raises every year, not at the end of the session when we're balancing the budget, but at the start of the session. I thought that was real important. We didn't talk tonight, but we have critical teacher shortages, and I have plans for those as well. You'll see roll out. I thought the fact that we're going to be able to fund locally roads and bridges. 436 roads and bridges are out in Mississippi. They're out in the counties. Only 4 are out on state roads. So where does the money need to go? It needs to go back to the county. Why do I tax everybody when a county may be able to tax themselves sufficiently to go ahead and fix those roads and bridges, or bring money to Jackson where it's filtered away, but 10, 20, 30% overhead? We don't need to do that. You know, Mississippi, I have learned by being here working for y'all for 12 years, it is run in the counties, not in the capital. And you will see me pushing economic development down to small businesses, not necessarily big businesses, but small businesses. They deserve the same amount of tax benefits and enthusiasm as a large business does. So I think you'll see a general push back to the grassroots, where Mississippi really operates.
Unlike some of the other races and other parts of the ballot, there are not issues, it seems, or as many of them, where you guys just say, I'm absolutely not for this and this one is. There are positions where they somewhat differ, but it doesn't seem like there are as many positions where you guys are just totally opposite on things. Are you hopeful that people at home, as this campaign continues to move forward, will see the dividing lines more clearly?
I think they will, but I want to say this about tonight. We stuck on the issues. I think that's important. Now, we've got, the governors need to come debate, obviously, with the lieutenant governor, so that's the next big one, obviously. But we stayed on the issues tonight, on the healthcare issues, on education issues, on infrastructures, and I proposed plans for those. On transparency, where you could actually watch your Senate at work in the committee rooms. We would webcam those so that everybody can see it at their kitchen table at night and not have to wait for it to be filtered through somewhere. That also helps on not surprising anybody. If you're watching the committee meetings, hearings, you can know before it ever gets to the Senate floor. So I think those things are different. And the ability, quite frankly, there'll be a great majority Republican Senate. Probably 35 or 36 senators will be Republican. And they need a Republican leader.
You talked about that. You mentioned it in the debate with your opponent about the fact that he could potentially be a Democrat working with a Republican Senate. How would you work with, let's kind of flip the script a little bit, working with a potential Democratic governor?
Right. I started when y'all first hired me. The first 4 years I worked, we had Billy McCoy was Speaker of the House, and then we had Bill Brown on the other side, and then we had differences. We had differences of opinion. We were able to pass legislation on LLCs, on all kinds of business matters. In fact, the Speaker stopped me one day coming down the hall. He said, "You're not going to bring me any more of those business legislation." I said, "Mr. Speaker, I'm probably going to have to do that." He said, "I figured you would." So we worked across the aisle. I got bills passed when we had a Democratic House and a Republican Senate. When we get hired to work for the people of Mississippi, I don't see an aisle out there. I see the 52 people having a job to do for the best interests of Mississippians, and that's what we'll be doing.
And one last thing, just a quick synopsis of what this gas tax plan, from your point of view.
Oh, it is the epitome of grassroots. We're turning back to the counties the ability to raise 2, 4, or 6 cents a gallon for a limited period of time, maybe up to 10 years, and that money will have to be spent on roads and bridges, not on bush hogs or John Deere tractors or anything, or salary increases. It'll have to go into the ground and into the bridges. and it'll be audited by the state auditor to make sure they do that. So we don't have to tax all of Mississippians. For some counties that may need some some additional tax to fix their bridges. This is a way to do that. It has been stalled year after year after year in the Mississippi Senate. This is a breakthrough. This is where we go to the counties that need it, and you have to remember that the counties themselves, almost every one of them has a 4-lane running through it. So they'll be picking up money from other people traveling through those counties to fix their own roads and bridges. So I think it's a very innovative way and one that we can achieve. Remember, when you're governing, when you can achieve something, when you can move the ball every year and make people's lives better, that's the key. So this plan here that will be restricted to a limited time and a limited amount by the local boards of supervisors and the people that vote for them and the people themselves, then used solely to fix roads and bridges with a term and a sunset provision, is a way to give our people that live in Mississippi in their grassroots the ability to dictate their own tax structure. And I think that's where everything runs.
The Medicaid expansion discussion, or if the state should accept money from the ACA, you said that it's not something that you wanted to make some of these decisions in a laissez-faire kind of way, I think was
Right.
the way that you phrased it. Can you explain, just kind of recap that position again for us?
What we discussed, we have been in discussions with Arkansas. I've met with the individual who drafted the Arkansas provisions, the ones that are administering now, and the lieutenant governor. I've met with the lieutenant governor of Louisiana on things that they did and things they wish they hadn't done. I think we start that process now where and the hospitals have proposed a plan. So I think we start that process by getting competing interest in a room, just like I've done every other piece of legislation, from voter ID to autism. Get competing interests in a room, and we start the discussion about how we're going to provide health care for above 27% of the federal poverty rate, which is where we're at here in Mississippi. I think there are ways. I want a net zero. I don't want Mississippi to spend extra dollars to do this. Obviously, there's federal funds involved. There are proposed hospital funds. There'll be ways to do this, but we have some time frame here because it's subject to the Fifth Circuit, whether or not it's even going to be constitutional. And then the things that I would like, where you have to work or have community service in any kind of plan like that. And also I would want people to make a contribution to any kind of plan like that. Those kind of issues are under litigation themselves. I think we've got about a year here where we can really come up with our own plan. And I would remind you that we have a president that's good about negotiating. So a lot of these things that were stopped by the federal agencies, we got a chance to maybe craft our own plan that would make Mississippi do well.
Even if you and Tate Reeves are elected, and he has been pretty adamant that he would be against any form?
Well, he's a Republican. He's going to be a Republican governor, and he's quite bright, and he has his positions and whatnot. And so I think, like everybody else in government, people don't run for these offices at this level without wanting to do the best thing for people. So I think we could have a healthy discussion. When I talk about having competing interests at the table, that includes the governor and everybody else. So I think I'm hopeful that we'll reach some kind of process that we can all agree on.
But would you be, are you in favor of acceptance of $1 billion in federal money to expand Medicaid or not?
Bobby, I want to be real clear about this. That's not the question. The question is whether or not we can provide health care at different benefits. Some of them go to 138%, we're at 27%. Different states have done different ways. For example, in Arkansas, they started their own health plan for mentally challenged individuals to be covered, and it was owned by the providers. So there are a lot of options. You want to just simplify a $6 billion issue. It's not that. We have to look at every single one. What I'm telling you clearly is I'm open to reform.